Impact segment tonight, mass murder in Norway. A vicious killer, Anders Breivik, has murdered at least 76 people in the Scandinavian nation of Norway. Breivik is a brutal fanatic who apparently objects to the presence of Muslims in Europe. Last Friday, he bombed buildings in Oslo and then took an automatic weapon to an island a few miles away, gunning down 68 people. Norwegian authorities couldn't get to the island because they didn't have a helicopter, if you can believe it. Now, on Sunday, the New York Times headlined, "Has horrors emerged? Norway charges Christian extremist." A number of other news organizations like the LA Times and Reuters also played up the Christian angle. But Breivik is not a Christian. That's impossible. No one believing in Jesus commits mass murder. The man might have called himself a Christian on the net, but he is certainly not of that faith. Also, Breivik is not attached to any church, and in fact has criticized the Protestant belief system in general. The Christian angle came from a Norwegian policeman, not from any fact-finding. Once again, we can find no evidence, none, that this killer practiced Christianity in any way. So why is the angle being played up? Two reasons. First, the liberal media wants to make an equivalency between the actions of Breivik and the Oklahoma City bomber Tim McVeigh and al-Qaeda. The left wants you to believe that fundamentalist Christians are a threat, just like crazy jihadists are. In fact, in the New York Times today, an analysis piece says that some believe we have overreacted to the Muslim threat in the world. Of course, that's absurd. Jihadists have killed tens of thousands of people all over the world. The Taliban, Iran, and elements in Pakistan use governmental power to support terrorism by Muslims. But the left-wing press wants to compare nuts like Breivik and McVeigh to state-sponsored terrorism and worldwide jihad. Again, dishonest and insane. The second reason the liberal media is pushing the Christian angle is they don't like Christians very much, because we are too judgmental. Many Christians oppose abortion, gay marriage, and legalized narcotics, secular left causes. The media understands the opposition is often based on religion, so they want to diminish Christianity, and highlighting so-called Christian-based terror is a way to do that. The primary threat to this world comes from Islamic terrorism. Iran is a major problem. If the country gets nuclear weapons, and it's desperately trying to, does anyone doubt those weapons could be used? A Muslim in Pakistan exported nuclear technology to North Korea. And Muslim suicide bombers blow innocent people up almost every day. Yet once again, the liberal media wants you to fear Christian terrorists. And going forward, when jihad is mentioned, you know Breivik and McVeigh will enter the conversation. Sometimes I think the world's going mad. This Breivik guy is a loon, a mass murderer who apparently acted out of rank hatred. No government supported him. No self-proclaimed terror group like al-Qaeda paid his bills. Breivik is just another loser who caused tremendous horror by murdering innocent people. There is no equivalency to jihad, no worldwide Breivik movement. Just another violent, pathetic legacy stemming back to Cain. In a moment, we will discuss why the left-wing media continues to report on terrorism in this manner, because doctrinaire Islam is anything but liberal. And later, continuing now with the Impact segment, let's bring in Fox News analyst Mary Catherine Ham and Alicia Menendez, who is in for Juan Williams tonight. Juan will join us in a moment to talk about his new book on NPR. Both ladies are in Washington this evening. So, were you offended by the New York Times highlighting the word Christian in its headline, Mary Catherine?
Yeah, look, I think it's a problem. First of all, I'll say, as I'm a political animal, but I try very hard in these instances not to immediately jump on my political hobby horse and figure out where I can ride it immediately in the aftermath of a tragedy like this. And I think a lot of other people would do good to do that as well. I think the New York Times, many liberals, activists certainly, desperately want an analog to extremist Islam so that they can sort of pat themselves on the back for being equal and making this equivalence. But you know what? a lot of times the term used for this guy, and if you read his writings, it's certainly not mainstream Christian fundamentalism in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he talks about paganism. As with many crazy people, it goes down a rabbit hole. But here's the deal. They've been referring to him as a Christian fundamentalist. Well, they referred to the Duggars in Arkansas as Christian fundamentalists too. So which is it? Is it having lots of children that makes you a crazy, violent threat, or is it killing lots of children?
Okay,
I mean,
well,
the equivalence is just insane.
We can find, Alicia, no evidence that this man practiced Christianity at all, anywhere, at any time, wasn't associated with any church as far as we know, okay? Didn't carry a Bible around, no educational background in that regard, totally secular guy. But now he's a Christian terrorist. So I think this is just patently dishonest.
And when you go back and you look for the original source, it's based on an AP article where, as you said, you had one police officer speculating that he'd spent time on these Christian sites. So I, as a Christian, find it a little dishonest. I find it erroneous, and it's unproductive. To me, it looks like
old banner headline, throw it up there again. Porter had nothing to do with this. This was, we sit down,
so then can we agree that it was lazy editing?
Wait, Alicia, I want everybody to know how this works. This is the editors of the New York Times sit down. They decide what their lead story is going to be and what their above-the-fold headline is going to be. And then they put it there. Porter has nothing to do with it, okay? This was an intentional, without a doubt, intentional brand of a mass murderer as a Christian. It is appalling. This is a serious situation, ladies. This isn't a mistake or sloppiness or laziness. This is appalling. Go ahead, Alicia.
I think that we can agree that it's appalling, but we can also agree that there is another narrative going on here, which is that this man clearly was very radical in his beliefs. This was not him just randomly opening fire on a random group of people.
That's a political situation, which is different.
And my point, Bill, is that to me is the greater crime here, that in using the term Christian, they buried what was the real lead, which is that he was radical in his political beliefs.
This guy was an anti-Muslim bigot. Right. That's what he was. That's what the record shows. All of his rantings and ravings on the net comes back to the fact, Mary Catherine, that he didn't like the Muslim intrusion into Norway and into Europe. That's what drove him. Not Jesus, not being baptized, nothing to do with that. Yet,
and
yet it was distorted. Go ahead.
Right. Alicia is correct that there are political and cultural implications here, but as far as the actual groups who would have supported, say, like pro-assimilation policies and that kind of thing, they actually kept him out of their groups, so they were not connected in any way.
There isn't a Christian group on earth who would embrace this man.
And the thing is about the New York Times and whether these things are intentional, I mean, you do kind of have to look at the record here. And when the left and the media were so blazingly, spectacularly, and I think many times intentionally wrong about something like Jared Loughner, because all they want to do is pin that on the Tea Party.
Absolutely,
it's been the narrative for 3 years, and they keep doing it.
It's not just about Muslims. It goes back to me on The View. It goes back to me on The View.
But are we going to overlook...
Go ahead.
But, Bill, we have the Washington Post, we have the Wall Street Journal also assuming that this was a jihadist before they had all of the facts.
Well, that's
so I think you have wrongdoing on both sides.
That's their fault. But they didn't banner it after thought and sitting down. They just took, you know, the initial reports that are always erroneous.
Some
Shouldn't have done it.
Also claimed,
that's sloppy and lazy. That's what that is. But this is intentional, and people should know. Americans of all faiths, Muslim, Jewish, Shinto, Catholic, whatever, you should know that there is a movement in the American media to diminish and marginalize the Christian philosophy. Mary Catherine, I'll give you the last word. Go.
Well, I mean, I think it's clear that, like, a lot of this is intentional. It's been going on for 3 years. It's sort of a crapshoot. They just sort of lay down this narrative every time there's a psycho out there, and it ends up being the case. In this one case that he has some sort of right-leaning ideas, but I think folks made mistakes. They jumped to conclusions. We could stop doing that in the future. I'm talking to many people on the left. It would be great if we don't just want to nail this on our convenient political enemy.
Okay, ladies, thanks very much. Plenty more ahead.